Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Ballincraig Estate, or, well, technically speaking, the spa shop and fuel station near Ballincraig Estate. The young man has made an early morning call. He's collecting morning bread. So the last few episodes were very close together. There was a lot going on in late summer with the summer fair and everything else. And since then, the young man obviously went to see Helen in the evening, as she had asked to. And over the last little while, it's fair to say that they have become rather romantically involved. So the young man has gone down to the shop to fetch the morning bread, and Helen was just getting up when he left the house. She had been spending few evenings, nights, at the young man's house up here on Ballincraig Estate. To begin with, they both agreed it was really just so that it was easier for her to look after the sheep, but now it's feeling more like they're becoming a couple. And here she is. "Good morning," says the young man. "Good morning," says Helen. "Oh, I see you brought bread." The young man nods. "Yeah, but we better get eating quickly. I do have to tend to the cows." "Okay," she says, and they head inside. After a little while, the young man gets out, and it's been nice having some good breakfast, but now the cows really do need some attention. Oh god, yeah, there's a bit of cleaning out to do, and the trough's starting to look a bit low, and there's watering to do as well. But life on Ballincraig Estate has been pretty good this last little while. Actually, he needs the bobcat before he sorts out the water, so has been parked in here. The young man has become a little bit more careful about keeping things under lock and key to ensure nobody sneaks around on the farm, but there's been no sign of trouble. Since the summer fair, and since he turned down the offer from the councillor to buy the farm for £600,000, the young man declined, and has decided that he wants to keep the farm going as a farm and not as a new potential golf resort or whatever it was that the councillor wanted to do. Helen really doesn't like the councillor. She has known him for a number of years, and increasingly the young man has become certain that he made the right choice by declining the offer. He does have some groundwork to do as well. The harvested fields have been sitting for a bit, but it is time to start thinking about getting the field up here ploughed up. That one wasn't ploughed last, it just got cultivated, and the field down the bottom just needs cultivating, but Helen's actually promised that she's going to help with that today. So the only thing left for the young man really to do here is to maybe run in by the sheep, but also to get a little bit of silage feed in for the cows. There is still grass up on the slope, but as autumn is now setting in, it is time to make sure that feeds get topped off. The young man has been in touch with Thomas and Henry. They arranged for the young man to be able to use this bobcat while his own tractor is out of action, and in return they are going to get some silage bales of two of the fields that the young man has, and they're going to supply the wrapper, and he gets to wrap the silage bales for the rest of the fields and keep them to feed his cattle with. So it's kind of like a win-win situation, it seems. The young man's quite pleased with the arrangement, and for the last little while things have been going steady. There has been a lot of bills coming in, so although he was up to about 14,000 when the grain had been sold, he has been making a bit of money out of the sold milk again, but he's also found himself increasingly spending money on really boring things like business rates and land taxes and things that he had never even really thought about. So he's just about balancing out, he reckons. He's lost a little bit of money recently, but there will be more money coming in from milk again. But for now, he just needs to check on the water for the cows, and then he can get on with some of the groundwork together with Helen. The cows seem to be doing well. After getting the all clear from the vet and from the milk company, they've been producing well and staying healthy. There's been no problems. Trevor has been doing quite a lot of time at work to try and catch up on hours and such like, but all in all, things have been managing quite well, and the young man has become more and more familiar with how to deal with the cows as well. Having filled up the cow's water trough, he does need to bring it over to ensure that the sheep are okay as well. He has been thinking about whether it will be possible to maybe just run a hose over to the sheep, because they're not as far away. The cow's water trough is kind of on the other side of the farm in many ways, but it might be possible to run a hose. But for now, he's just got to stick with the slightly manual approach here. The area on this side of the old house shed thing standing there looks a lot tidier after the contractors had cleared out. The contractors are due to come back. They were going to pick up some of the surplus metal gates, and the young man is basically going to break even from the work that they did on clearing the yard by allowing them the scrap value for the metal gates on the farm. They're due to come back either today or tomorrow, he's not quite sure, but they pretty much know what they're doing now, so he's not too worried about it. Just as the young man's about to pull out from the sheep field, Helen passes with the bobcat. She's just getting some feed in, some hay, additional hay for the sheep, just like with the cows. There is still grass on the field, but still need a little bit more topping up as it gets thinner here in autumn. The young man pulls the water trailer through, now that he has to suddenly pay attention to traffic in the yard, something he's not entirely used to, but he actually finds himself quite enjoying. He's been enjoying the fact of having some extra company on the farm. Not that there was anything wrong with him and Trevor working away on the farm, but it's still nice to be spending time with Helen as well. And they seem to have very compatible interests. They talk about farming, she talks about art as well. The young man tells a bit about his life before in the city, although not quite as exciting as Helen's. The one thing that slightly worries the young man is that Helen's still talking about getting her own place. She wants to move away and get a place for her own, where she can keep her sheep and work on her art. And while the young man totally understands that, he feels a little worried about what it might mean for them in the future. What if she decides to move far away, he thinks. But today's a lovely day, and he can't worry himself too much about things, because he's got to get down and clear up the field that was harvested last, so that he can get some winter seed in. He's decided that it wasn't necessarily something that was done a lot on the farm before, but putting winter seeds in will give an advantage. He's even thinking about next year perhaps ploughing up one of the grass fields and turning it into more arable production instead. But for now, he's just got to get this cultivator hooked up for the tractor, obviously with only 2 tractors on the farm, the old Deutz is having to work a little bit harder than he in many ways would like it to, and feels like he needs to start thinking about how to get this equipment properly cleaned as well. But he just stops to see what Helen is up to. Helen's finished with the sheep as the young man is pulling out with the cultivator. She stops the bobcat and says, "Do you want me to take the cultivator and you could do the ploughing? I think I'm not so sure about the ploughing bit. I think I can do this bit." "Yeah, okay," says the young man. "Well, I'll leave this here running for you and I'll get the Massey hooked up to our little plough." "Okay," says Helen. Clamps back into the bobcat to get that put back in place. Helen helped the young man get the plough mounted on and then quickly headed down to the field and got started on the cultivating. She's just clearing a little bit of headland space at the awkward turns at the end of the field before she really gets started. It's not a particularly big cultivator. It's not a particularly big field, but with an implement this size, it's still going to take her a while to get through this. But it's still a mild autumn day, so it could be worse. As the young man is working away on getting the subsoil in, it's kind of slow going, but his phone rings. It's Mike the mechanic. He's finally had a really thorough look at the young man's Massey Ferguson front loader that got damaged by whatever corrosive liquid it was that somebody snuck into his fuel tank here on the farm a couple of episodes ago. Mike tells him that there was quite extensive damage, and the best he could do in terms of sourcing some used parts and large parts of the engine, he needs a decision from the young man, because the repair bill, including a little bit of labor, he's trying to keep it down by just working on it when there's nothing else going on right now, it's still going to come to £5,000. Mike explains that he kind of needs a decision from the young man now, because there's a couple of the buyers or sellers of parts that are waiting for Mike's answer, otherwise they will be selling the parts to other stores. The young man stops and £5,000. Well, I suppose we have what we made from the grain sales, he says. Okay, Mike. Yeah. Please go ahead. And as the young man finishes connecting to his banking app, he sends in the money to Mike, now leaving him with £7,800. It's still more than he had at the beginning of the year, he consoles himself with. It's not all lost. There are a couple of big bills still coming in. I need to buy some seed, and I need to pay for the seed. Oh, actually, I need to go down and see Mike about that as well, and I still kind of feel like I ought to pay him something for lending me that baler. I know he kind of had a crush on Helen. Now that I'm kind of with her, I maybe feel a little bit bad, like she almost used him to get that baler. I feel like I should pay him something for it, the young man thinks as he works his way up the hill with the subsoiler dragging through the ground. Well, I'm gonna have to head down and see how things are going and pick up the seeds after lunch, the young man says. The young man finally finishes the arduous work of ripping up that field. It's well past what he would normally consider lunchtime. He wonders how Helen is getting on down there. He's feeling quite tired, but he realizes her tractor's parked up. He decides to stop and quickly check what's going on. In the house, Helen has prepared a lovely lunch for the two. They very much enjoy during the afternoon. It's a little while later when they emerge. Helen smiles to the young man. You need to go down and collect that seed, and I'll get the tractors put back. She smiles and heads off into the farm to start tidying up the yard a bit again. In the meantime, the young man backs out the old pickup truck here. He's heading down. He phoned and confirmed that Mike had received the payment, and at the same time he also told that his seed delivery was in, so the young man was welcome to come and collect it now. The young man has paid Mike the £400 the 2 bags of seed will cost him, and now he just needs to get them loaded up into the truck. 2 bags should be plenty. They are, after all, not very large fields. He needs the straw, so it's going to be sticking with wheat and barley, but interchanging them. So he's going to put wheat up on the top field next to the farm, and barley at the one down at the bottom. Helen, in the meantime, has got the plough dropped off the Massey, and now just has the cultivator left. God, we really need to wash these machines, she thinks to herself. But she knows that the young man is not exactly swimming in money these days. There has been a lot of bills going out, and with the latest repair bill for the other Massey with the front loader, it's not exactly easy times still on Ballincraig, although he hasn't gone bankrupt either. She looks out over the field and thinks, this is the field we cut, but we haven't actually put any fertilizer back on it. I'm gonna do that for him this afternoon to help him out a bit. Helen lowers the fertilizer spreader so she can get another bag on. She realizes there's only 2 bags of seed, but with the extra that the young man's getting, it should be enough, and there ought to be enough fertilizer. Oh, it's heavy. There ought to be enough fertilizer to keep them going and cover the grass and the newly seeded areas. So Helen sets out to the field. start spreading some fertilizer on this grass field. The other fields are actually in pretty good nick and are more or less ready to be cut. But this one was cut as one of the last ones when they were making the hay. So there's still time to get a bit of fertilizer into this one. It'll probably be the last one they cut in autumn as well, for more silage bales. The young man pulls up to the farm with the extra seed. He's now got to get the seeder readied. He's probably not going to do it today, but he wonders, well, the tractors are gone. Maybe Helen has gone into the house. Oh no, he can see her. She started fertilizing the grass. Oh man, she is amazing, the young man smiles to himself. So much initiative. Doesn't sit around waiting for every little decision to be made. He kind of grins to himself. I think I could learn something from her sometimes. He realizes that he's actually got to drop off the seed over here at the workshop first. In fact, these seed can more or less go straight into the sewing machine. The young man lobs the seed onto the seeder to make sure everything gets filled up. With most of a bag to fill the seeder, it doesn't really last very long when you start using it in the field. But at least seed is in. Pulls the tractor up on the side of the field. He's got some paperwork to attend to, so at least this is now sitting ready for tomorrow. Once he's tended to the cows, he'll be able to get straight on with the seeding the next day. As evening is starting to get close, Helen is finishing off having fertilized the whole field here. She's quite tired now. That's 2 rounds of field work carried out in one day. She feels pretty good about it and decides that that is probably enough for today. She's heading towards the house. She can smell cooking. The young man's obviously started making dinner already. And the young man and Helen settles in for a nice meal. As the evening closes in, they can hear the wind pick up outside until it turns quite ferocious. It's the middle of the night as the wind really picks up around the farm. You can hear wind hammering against the window. Rain seems to have stopped, but there's a hard driving wind, and suddenly there's an almighty crash. What was that? Says Helen. Helen stumbles out of it. I don't know, but I gotta go out and check. The young man flicks on his light and quickly scans around the farm. He can't see anything, but suddenly he hears a shout from Trevor. Oh my God! The young man shouts, Trevor! Trevor, what's going on? Trevor shines his light on where the house used to be, or the old house that used to sit next to him. Oh my God! Screams the young man. Trevor stumbles forward. I heard a mighty crash, shouts Trevor over the wind. It's all gone. It clean collapsed. Helen comes rushing over. Oh my God, she said. What's happened? The young man inspects the rubble, but doesn't want to try and climb into it. It doesn't look like it's entirely stable. There's just rubble everywhere. What about the sheep? He shouts. We gotta make sure they don't climb out this way. Oh no, they're coming, says Trevor. We gotta try and use some of the old posts. Rest them at least up against the rubble. Young man, Helen, come with me. We're gonna get some of them. We'll use the bobcat to lift them over. The young man rushes over towards. The wind is fierce and ripping in all of the buildings. As he gets in, quickly shifts over to the bale spike, hoping that it'll be strong enough to carry the large steel gates that he's at least still got lying around the farm. I guess he was lucky that those contractors hadn't arrived yet. As it turns out, Helen's already at the gate. Okay, she says. Just get the forks in and we'll get them brought over. The young man gently tries to navigate the spikes in. I don't know how many I can lift, he shouts. Just try, she says. After about an hour's frantic work with hammers for spiking in at the bottom of the fence posts, baling twine cable ties, there's finally some kind of makeshift thing in place. All right, laddie, shouts Trevor to the young man inside the bobcat. I think you can take the tension off now. I think it should hold. The young man eases off the controls, and with a bit of relief, he sees that their rather makeshift fence is actually standing. Helen has had to spend most of her time chasing the sheep away. They seemed rather curious about what was going on. But the young man jumps out and puts up his flashlight again, clapping Trevor on the shoulder. It's like, oh man, I'm just glad it wasn't your house. My house, said Trevor. Are you crazy? This old rotten thing hasn't been looked after for years. Helen comes over now that the fence is in place. You mean it's just been standing like that? Yeah, says Trevor. We never really bothered doing anything about it. It used to be one of the other farmhands that lived here like yonks ago. I think it was around the time when your uncle moved in that house stopped getting used. The young man looks a little bit amused. Well, I have to admit, it never even crossed my mind to look inside it. We never really needed the space, I guess. He kind of grins a little relieved. Trevor grins too. No, don't worry. That house over there is much, much sturdier. It might look a bit similar, but I've been looking after it. Don't you worry about a thing. And look, the clouds are clearing up. It's turning out to be a bit of a milder night now. I think things are calming down. Helen draws a sigh of relief. Well, I think frankly that's enough excitement for one night for me as well. Should we try and go back and get some sleep? The next morning, it's pretty quiet on the farm, even though the sun has already risen. Everybody seems to be having a little bit of an extra rest on top of the evening's events. It doesn't take long though before the young man steps outside with a cup of coffee in his hand. He left Helen to sleep, but he didn't actually get much sleep himself. It isn't so much the accident itself that seems to be bothering him. It's the obligations that he felt to his uncle, and what will happen in terms of the solicitors, now that like a whole building of the farm has literally disappeared. He's pretty sure that there wasn't any mention of that in the will, or what to do about it. But he kind of feels that those solicitors don't necessarily have his best interest at heart. Trevor walks up to the young man. "Morning, laddie," he says. "Oh, morning, Trevor. Did you get any more rest?"
"Oh, I slept fine. Like I said, I'm really not worried about that house."
"Well, no, it isn't that," says the young man. "But I think I need to phone the solicitors and, I don't know, figure out what this means in terms... I mean, I was supposed to stay on the farm, not destroy it."
There is that, laddie," says Trevor. "But you know what? I think you should have a rummage through your uncle's paper and some of those bills you've been paying. I'm pretty sure there's some insurance in there, right? I've got to head to work now, so you also need to get in touch with Henry and Thomas, because most of the grass around here is starting to look ready for that silage."
The young man nods. Yes, certainly. There's lots to do again, but don't worry, I'll sort out the animals. The sheep are safe, and the cows are pretty good, but I'll make sure they're fed and watered."
"All right, laddie. I'll see you when I get home."
And as Trevor is trudging down the road to catch his bus to work, that is the end of today's episode. This morning the weather looks fine again, but that's the thing about fickle autumn storms. But I hope you enjoyed watching the episode. Obviously a bit more time has passed at this one than we have done in the last few episodes, and we're well into autumn now. Well, into early autumn. And there's still some silage work to be coming up in the next episode. But for now, it's thank you very much from Overcourt Gaming, and see you again soon.